Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Breeze, Breezeway Productions, The Breeze. We bring you the latest in independent films and film festival news, and we are happy to be back with our first interview since the Hamptons Film Festival at the mid-October mark, and we are now going to be talking about the Dances with Films Festival, the New York edition. The first year it is going to be here in New York, and we have a New York filmmaker here with us today to talk about his film that's in the festival and the festival itself. So we have Doron Drew Feldman. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for coming on the show. And tell me about your film that's in the festival this year.
Sure. Our film is called Pivot Pals. It's a short film, and it is about an uptight boy who is struggling to rid himself one afternoon of his mother's man-child boyfriend, who is dead set on becoming part of their family. And it takes place one afternoon in Pittsburgh, and it's based on a childhood story of mine, which I'm happy to share if you'd like to hear it.
Sure.
So the genesis of the project, really the genesis, it came out in COVID. My writing partner and I were working on some scripts. I had been directing some animation. And it's like, okay, now that things are dying down a bit, we got to get back out there. I want to be physically on set again. I want to be sitting behind a computer. So we were exploring some ideas, and I told him a story about when I was a kid. Unfortunately, my father passed away when I was 6 years old. And that was obviously very challenging. But what was in some ways more challenging in certain ways was actually the period after he passed away, when my mother started dating again. All of a sudden there were new people in our lives, and you're sort of navigating that as a young boy. And one of these men I did not particularly like, and he wanted to take me to a Dallas Cowboys game. I grew up in Dallas.
Okay.
And he asked my mom if he could first take me for a drive around the block a couple of times before he took me to this big game. We had this outing. And my mom said, yes, sure, go for it. I think she probably knew I didn't particularly like him, so maybe I'd warm up a little bit. So he drives me around the block. I don't remember any details of the conversation. I just remember not wanting to be there. And when he dropped me off, he went inside to my house. He went and found my mom, and he looked at her and he said, I think you need to get your son's IQ checked out. My mom said, what? What are you
It's a
talking
weird
about?
thing to say.
What a weird thing to say. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And he said, your son just told me exactly what he thought about our relationship, and he was right. And then he broke up with my mom right then and there
Oh,
and walked
snap.
out of the house.
Wow. I guess you ended that awkward relationship then.
Yeah. So I told my writing partner Derek, and he said, that's pretty funny. And short films, they're often best when they're contained to a period of time or a location. So well, we could write that. So we use that as a genesis. If you watch the film, you'll see it's totally not that at all. But that was the kernel of the idea that then sprouted into this short film.
Okay. So did you feel like now was the right time to make that because you had that COVID break? I know that you work on a Lifetime show, Text Me When You Get Home. So how were you able to fit that in? Where was that show like on break during the COVID pandemic? So you thought it was time to do a short? Is that how that worked out?
So actually, the Lifetime show. The Lifetime show I did last year, Text Me When You Get Home, came.
Yeah.
I shot that after I shot Pivot Pals, which is the
Oh,
short
okay.
film. And then I'm now, thankfully, the show took off, went really well. They're doing a second season, so I'm going back out in mid-February to March to put some of the episodes in the second season.
Very nice. Well, congratulations on that. And this film is going to be at the first annual Dances with Films Festival that's going to be here in New York. I know I've been to the one in Los Angeles. I've covered that, but tell me about your experience thus far with Dances with Films, the New York edition. What's going on with that?
Sure, it's exciting. I haven't been to the one in Los Angeles, but it's the same team from LA coming over to New York. I think
Mhm.
there's an energy, like a newness to it, that people are curious about. It's a new location.
Yeah.
They're still putting together their panel list. But it's exciting in that it's like obviously a new relationship with this theater specifically, right? That they're screening with, and a chance to build a larger community. So, for us, it's like I spent a lot of time in New York City. It was cool to be part of something new as well with Pivot Pals, be part of it's not an inaugural festival for them, but in a sense it is, because as they were saying, they had to sort of, in some ways, start fresh on some of their relationships and so yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they put together. They're working, you can tell they're working really, really hard,
Mhm.
especially because they haven't been there for 25 years. So I'm sure it takes a little more work in some ways.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more about what comes out of that. At least that's going to be in New York. It's for a weekend. Do you know when your film is screening, when and where?
Yeah, so if people want to come see it, which I highly recommend they do, we're going to be screening with a series of blocks at 1:15 on Sunday. So it's a good matinee showing at the Regal in Union Square.
Okay, very cool. Well, I hope our audience is able to check that out and then go and see Pivot Pals, which will be playing at the Dances with Films New York Edition Festival. And what else can people look forward to that's coming out of your wheelhouse after Pivot Pals?
Sure. So I'm working on a feature film right now. It is a period piece set during the Gilded Age about reproduction artists.
Okay.
It's a big comedy, and we're currently out attaching talent right now and putting the piece together, putting the project together. We're expecting to shoot in July,
Very nice.
somewhere on the East Coast. And the other thing we're working on is an adaptation of a book called Like Dreamers by the New York Times bestselling author Yossi Klein Halevi. And
Okay.
Yossi is known for most prominently known for Letters to My Palestinian Neighbors. And he wrote a book called Like Dreamers, which is a sort of band of brothers in Israel. That's what I say. Band of Brothers meets Israel. It's about the 55th Paratroop Reserve Brigade in Israel, and it follows a group of 7 paratroopers from 1967 up until the early 2000s, and they were all together multiple times throughout different wars, and also had divergent ideologies and hopes and dreams for the future of Israel. And so you really get to see through these very human stories, you get an inside look at the culture and social and society politics of Israel in the last 40 years.
It sounds like a book that my father might be interested in because he did firsthand fight in those wars. I know that he tries to forget those extremely hard and challenging times, but to recollect stories from them, obviously people need to read history and learn and remember everything that happened over the course of human history in these decades. So definitely check out that work. Where can people go to find out more about you and these projects and endeavors, like a website or your Facebook or Instagram or things like that?
You can go to DoronDrewFeldman.com. You can
Mhm.
also find me on Instagram, Doron Drew Feldman, and on Twitter, Doron D. Feldman.
Awesome. Well, we will plug all of those tags and links down below. And I want to thank you for coming on the show to talk about your upcoming projects, specifically the one that is going to be at Dances with Films here in New York. So Doron Drew Feldman, make sure to go and check him out, and then also see the film which is playing at the festival, which you will link below. So I hope you have a good day, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.